These horrifying people are Gloria Williams and Brian Coulter. Williams is charged with injury to a child by omission and tampering of evidence. Her boyfriend, 31-year-old Brian Coulter, is charged with 8-year-old Kendrick Lee's murder. Her bond is set at $900,000. His bond is set for $1 million. 3 of Gloria's children have been living alone in an apartment with the decaying body of Kendrick for the last year. Gloria's oldest daughter has been listed as a missing person by the Center for Missing and Exploited Children. Her name is Jasmin Wittaker. She is 17. Hey everybody, and welcome to True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. This is Katie Weaver, and I'm here with my co-anchor, sister, and partner in crime, Christy Brower. Hello.
Hello. Hey everybody.
How's it going?
It is going pretty well. I got a walk outside in the beautiful fall weather today, and that was really nice.
Gorgeous fall day.
Yeah.
I woke up feeling really good today, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get all of my Halloween stuff pulled down and put away, because we have been guilty of leaving stuff up, way too long until you have to dig it out of snowbanks and stuff. So, man, I did it. All of it. Even all the big blow ups and everything.
Good
put
job.
Away, stored for the year.
There you go. You are set.
I'm on a roll. Yeah.
Yeah, we've been doing stuff like that too. I know this time of year, it's like you're on the downhill run to it's, going to be frozen for 5 months. And so it's time to get her all done. I know we've been doing some stuff that way too.
Yeah, for sure. So, yep, good. Well, this is our Tuesday case. It's our group case for the week. And before we dive into it, we probably ought to go ahead and have a word from our sponsor.
Yes, we should.
Support for True Crime Paranormal is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in below-the-waist grooming and hygiene. Ladies, listen up. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for you and your man's jewels. For any woman out there who has come across a hairy bush, you are now in luck. Manscaped, the best men's below-the-waist grooming, has just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. Make sure your man joins the 2 million men worldwide who already trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code TrueCrimeParanormal at manscaped.com.
A friend of ours had an unfortunate incident recently. He used a regular razor to shave his balls. That night, while getting frisky with his lady, she wanted to use cinnamon lube.
Wait.
His freshly shaved balls became atomic fireballs in the flash of an eye. If only he had used the Lawnmower 4.0, he would have had smooth, pain-free balls. Manscaped engineered the ultimate groin and body trimmer by focusing on intelligent functionality and an incredibly comfortable grooming experience. Their 4th-generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology.
Get 20% off and free shipping with the code TrueCrimeParanormal at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. And don't forget to use the code TrueCrimeParanormal. Experience premium grooming with Manscaped.
The holidays are coming. Now's the best time.
I guess.
I think so. I mean,
yeah. There's no time like the present. I don't know.
Yeah, there are some gifts in the future of many men, We'll put out some atomic fireballs across the nation. It'll be great.
It's the last thing you want, really.
Well,
anyone
it's what I've heard.
Ever.
The only atomic fireballs I've ever had are the hard one, the hard candy ones.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't know a lot about this particular problem.
Me neither. I don't want to, honestly.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
Well, with that being said, let's dive into our case. So, you guys have
Oh, do we have
probably
to?
heard, oh man, this is a toughie, and we didn't do it when it initially came out last week because, oh, it's a gut wrencher. But
Mhm.
more and more is rolling out, and we have to do this case justice. We have to do these kids justice. So, here we are.
Right.
So, this, of course, is the case. This happened in Houston here in the last 10 days or so. A 15-year-old child called 911 and said that his brother is dead. And the police arrived at their home and discovered that his brother was indeed dead and that he's been dead for nearly a year.
Yeah.
And they also discovered three little boys living in the apartment, a 15-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. All of those children are suffering from malnutrition.
Yeah.
The 7-year-old also has a broken jaw and a horrifying jaw infection, bone infection that is going to require reconstructive surgery.
Yes.
So that's the horror that the police walked into. And of course, the decomposed corpse of Kendrick, who was 8 years old when he was murdered. He would be 9 now.
Yeah. He's been dead almost a year.
Yeah. So, how the hell did this happen?
Right.
Well, apparently, we're talking about the mother, Gloria Williams, and her boyfriend. So the boyfriend's name is Brian Coulter, and Brian has been charged with the murder of Kendrick Lee. He literally beat him to death. He
He
had
said
beat
he
all of
beat
the
him till
kids.
he went to sleep.
Yeah. He, according to the other kids, he hit him and kicked him in every way and place imaginable until he stopped moving. And then mom ran into the room, started crying and fighting with him. And then they just kept the body in a room. And that room was a room where naughty kids got locked when they were in trouble.
Yeah. My God, that's just.
So this happened, the kids estimate this happened about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving last year. So that's about a year. And
Mhm.
a year it is. And apparently, Gloria and Brian lived there until March when they didn't want to live with that dead body anymore, or their crimes, or the other kids, or the kids. And so they rented another apartment some 15, 20 miles away
Yeah.
and have been peeking in to check on them here and there. The kids are telling the authorities that they show up there occasionally just so that Brian can beat up the kids, which
Yeah.
he has continued to do regularly.
Mhm.
And she occasionally sends over a grocery order.
That is mostly just junk food, like
Mm-mm.
soda and chips and candy and stuff. It's
Yeah.
not actual food.
No, not at all. The kids haven't been to school in about a year and a half. And the school apparently did come calling. They've knocked on the door a time or two, but nobody answered. And they just didn't know, thought maybe they moved. COVID has kind of thrown all of this stuff in the air. The kids they don't also have no power, have had no power in the apartment for we're not sure how long. Remember the horrible storms that Texas suffered this winter.
Yeah.
Wonder how in the heck these kids lived through that. But
There isn't even any furniture in this apartment,
mm-mm.
and it's full of cockroaches.
Yep, just living in absolute squalor and starving to death. There's a neighbor that says that they have been feeding the kids when they ask for food and letting them charge their cell phone over there. Why? Why
But
hasn't that person called the police before? Ever? Never
right.
called the police. Never called CPS. Nothing.
She said she didn't want to pry too much because she thought they would stop coming over, and at least this way she was feeding them. But honestly, this should have been a phone call to the police.
Adults pry, pry
Yes.
for Christ's sake.
Right. This is the epitome of see something, say something.
Ugh.
Like, how could you
And
be a
it's
neighbor?
not just that neighbor, it's all of them. Neighbors are saying, yeah, there was a bad smell coming from that apartment.
How could there not be? I mean, there was a body decomposing for a year in this apartment,
Hmm.
and no one bothered to call the police and say, it smells like something died in our apartment, in our building. You
Mm-hmm.
know, like you cannot tell me that people in that community didn't have some idea that something was terribly wrong.
Yeah.
And
Well,
I
you would sure think
recognize that
so.
this is likely a location where people have had bad experiences with police. You may
Mm-hmm.
have people who have records or who have warrants, and so they may have,
Mm-hmm.
there have been some self protection here. And I do understand
Mm-hmm.
that to an extent, but we are talking about children here.
Yeah.
I don't care, adults, what your consequences might be.
No.
If kids are in trouble, you have to report it. You have to get them some help.
Yeah.
I mean, the trauma that's been done to these children, they will never recover.
No.
This is the kind of trauma that you do not recover from.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, oh,
It's unthinkable.
it is absolutely unthinkable. And if these kids can ever even just return from their state of total checked out, they're totally, totally emotionally checked out.
Yeah.
And will they ever be able to come back from that? It's unlikely, honestly, which is really
No.
unfortunate. And it
No.
puts them at really high risk for severe mental illness as adults. What's been done to these kids is lifelong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. Well, the 7-year-old with the broken jaw. Apparently, Gloria and Brian came and got him recently and took him back to their apartment for a few days. And when they returned him, his face was all swollen up. And his brothers asked him what happened, and he said he wasn't allowed to tell. Well, apparently the face has gotten worse and worse, and it's presumed that that's why the brother finally got scared enough to call 911
It
because
must have been, I mean, something.
something was finally the catalyst, At any rate, and as we know, so now he has admitted that it's Brian. Brian punched him in the face and broke his jaw.
And then had no medical care. And
Mm-hmm.
it had been broken for like 3 weeks.
Yeah. And he has a bone infection, and now he has to have reconstructive surgery to fix that.
Mm.
And now they're in the care of CPS in
Mhm.
Houston, which is also, to be honest, a travesty because the
It is.
CPS situation going on in Texas right now is horrifying.
It is. I know. It's
It's
scary.
better than where they came from, but it's not good enough.
No, it is definitely not good enough. And honestly, these children need long-term major therapy and
care.
help.
Yeah.
Like the kind of care that they need is, like a specialized foster home,
Mm-hmm.
not just a regular foster home, but like a therapeutic, trained foster home with foster parents who understand this level of trauma.
Yeah.
And they will likely not get it, and not in Texas.
No, not in Texas. So Gloria has 6 children.
Yeah.
She has a 17-year-old daughter. She has the 15-year-old son. She has a 13-year-old daughter who has lived with her grandmother for the bulk of her life. We'll get back to that. Then, of course, there is the 11-year-old and
9
Kendrick,
and 7. They're 9,
not
7,
yeah,
and 15.
9,
There were a
7.
lot of confusion. There's a lot of confusion about the kids' ages.
Yeah.
At the beginning.
At any rate, so there's still the 3 boys that were in the home. There's also 2 girls. Now, the 13-year-old girl, apparently, Grandma had recognized Gloria as somebody who probably shouldn't be having kids when the 13-year-old was born. And she had a different dad from the oldest or the older kids. And she took custody of her right after she was born and had her for a short period. And then Gloria took her back. And then when she was around 2, Gloria ended up giving her back to Grandma. And she has stayed with Grandma. Grandma has custody of her.
Thank heavens.
Yes.
For her.
When the oldest daughter, who's now 17, when she was 15, she and Gloria had a big fight about, guess what? The way her boyfriend was treating her children. She was trying to defend the boys who were getting beat up.
Yeah.
And so how did Mom respond? She threw her out on the street.
Yeah.
And apparently, she lived on the street for a certain amount of time at 15. And then the 13-year-old's grandma took her in as well. Not kin to her, but this is her half sister, so she took her in. And
Hmm.
she lived there for about a year, it sounds like, or not quite a year. She lived there for a while. And at any rate, something fell apart there and she ended up not living there. And what we know now is that within the last week or so, she has been listed as officially as a missing person.
Yes.
And so I want to make sure that we're all very aware of that. Her name is Jasmin Wittaker. She is 17. They do think that she's somewhere in the Houston area. Now, in reading through comments on some articles about her being missing, some people are sharing screenshots saying that her family says that they've made contact with her and she's safe. And I hope that's true. However, the Center for Missing and Exploited Children has not removed her or named her as someone who's been found. So we're going to operate off of that.
Well, she's still a minor, so just making contact with her is not enough.
Yeah.
Like, she literally needs to be in the care of someone because she
Hmm.
is not a legal adult yet.
Yeah.
So that's why they've still listed her as missing.
Hmm.
Even if people have talked to her, like, she's still not in a safe situation.
Right. They still don't have confirmation of that. So
Yeah.
that's what's going on with the oldest, this poor girl. Can you imagine the horror she has been through?
No, and now seeing all of this, you know,
Yeah.
you can't imagine what she must be feeling seeing all this on the news
No, I'm sure
about
she
her
had
younger
no
brothers.
idea. Yeah. Nope.
Ugh,
So mom was in court today.
yes, she was.
So we learned a few things today in court. Gloria only spoke out loud once. She said good morning to the judge, and that was the only thing she uttered. The DA's office did read parts of the investigation. They allege that Williams and her boyfriend moved out of the apartment with the boys in March, left the boys there in March.
Hmm.
Uh, According to the state, the boys said that the murder of their brother happened sometime about 3 weeks before Thanksgiving. Of course, also means that the couple lived there with this dead child before they moved in March, 15 minutes away. The boys also say that the couple locked them in the room with the 8-year-old's remains after he was murdered while they were still living there. And in another article, I read that that was a punishment
Hmm.
when they were
Yeah,
in
I read
trouble.
that as well.
Williams claims that her boyfriend assaulted her son, and when she tried to confront him, he apologized.
Ugh,
She had, in an earlier statement when she was first arrested, she said that she didn't know he was dead,
yes.
which is
Yeah.
obviously a flat out lie, which of course
Hmm.
she is, but she's, according to her attorney, she said that she did not know what to do. And so, sorry, I went the wrong direction in my notes here. Said she didn't know what to do with the remains, so she just stuffed them in a bedroom. She said that she had sent groceries to the apartment once a month and kept the lease so that the remains wouldn't be found.
Not so that her children would have a place to live,
Yeah,
obviously.
yep, yep. Uh, and then, of course, we already know about the 7-year-old and the jaw injury. So here's what's coming. They've assigned Neil Davis to Williams' case. They've had a hard time finding the correct attorney for her based on her charges. But at any rate, I don't know why, but they've assigned a person named Neil Davis. He
Well, and
asked,
her judge recused himself.
yes,
She had to get a new judge.
yep. They will actually be back in court later this week. They have to decide, the new judge has to decide if they think her bond is insufficient based on how serious her current charges are. And there will be more charges coming. I mean, this is just,
This is just the beginning. This is
this is
just
just the beginning. Yeah.
so they can hold her.
Hmm. So bond right now is that at 900K with the condition that she cannot have any contact with the children. I mean,
That's going to go up. I
duh,
think that's
but
going to
that's
go
going to
up.
go up. Yeah. Yeah. Not that I think she has any means to bond out at
She
900,000,
doesn't. Yeah, no,
but
she'll sit.
honestly, And his is at 1 million. So, and he'll be in court here in the next day or two. So that's kind of where that stands. So obviously we're going to keep tracking this case, but so many questions. So freaking many questions. And a lot of people are going, "What? The 15-year-old had a phone? Well, he could have called 911 at any time." No. Yeah, yes, physically, feasibly he could have, but emotionally, first of all, these kids have been through so much that no one should assume that they understand where their mindset was or what their thinking was.
No.
Not that
This
they
level
were,
of trauma,
yeah, you can't
they're
get your head
so
around
checked
it.
out at this point.
Yeah.
Plus the fear of reprisal. I mean, you already know that 7-year-old was not allowed to say why his jaw was so swollen. Can you imagine that how terrorized these kids have been to
Mhm.
not tell anyone? There's also indication that these kids all have some developmental disabilities.
Mhm.
And so just because he was 15 does not mean that his level of understanding and cognition is 15,
Right.
you
Easily
know?
not. Easily not. The
He was
police
just
said
trying to
that,
keep his brothers alive.
yeah. The police said that when they arrived and took custody of the situation and of the kids, that the kids begged them for food.
Yes. They took them directly to a donut shop because
Yeah.
they said they really wanted donuts.
Yeah. This case makes me cry. It just makes me
It's
sick.
unbelievable. But it's something that we have to face and recognize that these
Yeah.
things do happen here in the US and that children do fall through the cracks. And that despite the opportunity that the school had, that the neighbor had, that potentially the grandmother had, nobody spoke up for
Yeah.
these kids.
And other family members
Yeah.
who haven't seen these kids in years.
Yeah.
The dads. Where the hell are the dads of these kids?
One of them is dead.
Okay.
One is dead and the other one is not involved. But yeah, again,
Yeah.
you're not involved, huh? Yeah, you're a real piece of work.
Yeah.
No one checking in. I mean, the level of isolation that these kids have experienced, that there was nobody in the world concerned about their safety.
Yep. Or that cared enough about them to check in.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's horrifying. That is absolutely horrifying.
Yes, it is. Yep.
Unfortunately, it's not that uncommon.
No.
Cases like this, although shocking and horrifying, are not as uncommon as you might think
No.
because we don't have a good oh, there we go. Lost each other for a second.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But I was just saying that, we don't have a good system in
No.
this country to ensure the safety of children.
No. No.
We have various levels of that, but somebody's got to report. And in Texas, they rely on the teachers. And most states rely on teachers. Well, with COVID,
Yeah.
that has gone out the window.
Yep.
This has been a terrible time for vulnerable children.
Yep. Yep.
In the school, they didn't try that hard. They
No.
could have tried a lot harder.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, I'm sure they're kicking themselves now. And, I know they have lots of high risk and at risk kids. But gosh, these kids did not get what they needed. Wow.
No, they didn't. Everything failed them. Everyone failed
Right.
them.
The system as a whole completely collapsed for these kids.
Yeah.
Now,
It
all
certainly
we can
has because
do
there's
is,
been child protection contact in the past with this family.
yeah.
They don't currently have an open case, but there has been before.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And I'm not trying to lay blame. I'm just saying
Right. That on every
there
level, there
yeah,
has been a collapse of care here. Yeah.
there has, and this is shining a big bright light on the fact that we don't have a good way to protect vulnerable children in
Yeah.
this country.
Yep. Yep. But like you said, case is the poster child for if you see something, say something.
It
You
it
know?
is. It is. If you know that there are kids that aren't eating because they're starving and their parents aren't taking care of them, you have to speak up, because what if you're the only person who knows?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
We
and I
went
don't
through
know.
some we went through some things like this when we were kids, not on the in knowing about situations like that. And our dad's best friend was a social worker, and
Hmm.
he worked in child protection and then in probation,
Hmm.
and our parents made reports
Hmm.
about children that we played with and knew many
Hmm.
times.
Hmm.
And we really grew up with that belief that
Right.
if you know that a kid is in danger, you have to tell somebody.
Right. And it's not because you're trying to get somebody in trouble or not get somebody in
No.
trouble. It's because there's something not right in that family structure.
Yeah.
Years ago, I owned a home daycare. I had a home daycare for 10 years. And I had these sweet kids in my care that had a single mom that was having a pretty tough time, working two full-time jobs and just really trying to get by. But one day they came to daycare and the 2-year-old had a cigarette burn on her neck.
Yeah.
And mom said that it happened at her sister's house, that her sister was watching the kids that night because I was watching them all day. And then she'd pick them up, take them to her sister's, and she'd watch them all night because she was working two full-time jobs. And she said that her sister was swinging on the swing set, holding the toddler in her lap, and the swing collapsed. And as it collapsed, she accidentally crushed her cigarette out on her neck. I mean, is that what happened? Is that not what happened? It doesn't matter. In Idaho, every adult is a mandatory reporter, and
Yeah.
particularly a child care facility, right? So I had to call CPS, and I did. And then they didn't come to daycare for a few days. And I figured they probably won't be back. She'll probably hate me forever for this. And then she called me, and I was so scared to answer the phone, but it is what it is, right? So I answered the phone, and she said, I have to thank you. She said, I was really mad. She said, I knew you had to have been the person who called. They wouldn't tell me, but I'm sure it was you. And I said, well, it's the law. And she said, I know. They explained that to me. But she said, but here's the thing. She said, my life is in a huge disarray, and I'm working two full-time jobs trying to support these kids. The toddler had a terrible bowel issue, too, that needed like some serious medical care. Well, guess what CPS did? They helped her get the resources that she needed so that she could quit one of those jobs and just work full time now, one time, so that she could be home with her kids at night. They
Yeah.
helped her to start getting child support that she wasn't getting. They helped her get the medical care that the toddler needed. They really helped her turn her life around. They didn't
Right.
take her kids. In that case, they didn't need to. Now, sometimes they do. But
Yeah.
again, that's just sometimes the way it is. And I know some people have had horrible experiences with CPS. I do understand that.
Right.
But we have got to trust the system enough and care about these kids enough to make those calls. And those kids stayed in my care for 2 more years and did
Yeah.
super well. And mom did super well. It was, it's probably a rare CPS success story, but it was a success story. And I always think
I
about that
honestly
in this
don't think
case.
it is rare. I think that is actually the norm. That it is more common for a family to just, they need some help and support and they're struggling with some problems they don't know how to solve, and getting
Yeah.
someone in there is the solution most of the time. We
Yeah.
hear about the bad things, we hear the stories about
Yeah.
people taking kids that they shouldn't have taken. And guys, I've worked in the child protection system. I've been a foster parent. I am an adoptive parent. I will tell you right now that if
Hmm.
kids go into care, there is a reason.
Yeah.
And you may not know it, but there is.
Hmm.
But
Or
in
you may
this
not like
case,
it, but there
yes, or
is.
you may not like it.
Hmm.
But in this case, it did not have
No,
to get to this level.
no, no, no. And I don't even know what to say. Just studying this case out so we could make this report, my stomach has just hurt. It's just
Oh,
so freaking terrible. I can't even.
it's
But
awful. It's awful, but we have to talk about cases like this.
yeah,
We have to acknowledge that these things do happen.
absolutely. And maybe do happen around us, you
Hmm.
know.
Well, they
We
do.
have to be brave enough to face that. and be a solution. But
Well, and just as citizens, I mean, yes, see
mhm,
something, say something, vote. Okay.
mhm,
Your local legislature, your state
mhm,
legislature is who sets child protection laws and child
mhm,
protection policy. That comes from the state legislature, it comes
mhm.
from the governor. So your state representatives, these are the people making those
Mhm.
policies. And if you don't like what's going on with child protection in your state, it's about voting
Yeah.
and it's about speaking to your representatives because
Mhm.
child protection laws are not federal, they are state.
Mhm. Yep.
And
Yep.
that's, we all can get involved in
Mhm.
situations like this on various levels, but just as a good citizen,
Yeah.
showing up to vote, asking potential candidates, what is your
Yeah.
stance on the child protection system in this state? How are you going to help make it better?
Yeah. Yep. Yep. There you go. And if you live in Texas, please take a deep dive into your
Oh,
state's child protective services situation and foster care situation, because if you don't already know, there is a horrible thing going on in
there
Texas.
is. There are several. And always, every state does not have enough foster parents. Every
Yeah.
single state.
Yeah.
And so some foster parents slip through the cracks. We end up
Mhm.
with foster parents with criminal backgrounds. We end up with
Mhm.
foster parents who emotionally cannot manage kids, but it's because states get stuck having to just take whoever they've got because there aren't enough, you
Yeah.
know? So, another way to be part of the solution is to become a foster parent.
Yeah. For sure. And also find out what you can do to help with the foster system.
Hmm.
What do they need? What can
Can
you
you
help
volunteer?
provide?
Yeah.
Yeah. All of those things. Yep.
And just pay attention to your neighbors. Pay
Mhm.
attention to the children that live around you.
Mhm.
And if you have concerns, get involved
Yep.
because these kids were helpless
Yep.
and terrified,
Yep.
and their lives are destroyed.
Uh, Beyond recognition. Yeah. Yep.
Mm,
So we will keep
awful.
tracking this case. As we know, Brian will be in court this week. Gloria will be back in court this week. We'll
Hmm.
keep keeping an eye on this case and reporting back. Yep. And there you have it. So this has been our Tuesday case. We will be back tomorrow, Wednesday, with another case. And then, of course, we'll be back in the evening for case updates. And there are a bunch.
Oh my
And then we'll be
gosh,
back, yeah, Thursday
so
night for the
many.
psychic hour at 7 p.m. Mountain. And it is marching orders. So we still have a lot more
Yes,
to
it
come this week.
is. It's already November, you guys.
Yeah.
What? Yeah.
Time flies when you're having fun.
Well,
Sometimes, not today,
sometimes.
boy.
Yeah.
Sobering. Alrighty, guys, this has been yet another production of True Crime Paranormal with the Psychic Sisters. Take care.
Bye, guys.